Good morning. I am A.S. Revati, PhD scholar, Department of Educational Psychology, Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, Karapakkam, Chennai. My guide, Dr. C. Lakshmi Shanmugam, Assistant Professor, Department of Educational Psychology, Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, Karapakkam, Chennai. Today my topic, learning. Unit learning, sum up. Objectives. After completing this model, the prospective teachers are able to understand and explain clearly what is the learning, realize and explain clearly the concept of learning, recognize and explain the meaning and the definition of learning, develop skills in according to learning theory, develop interest in knowing the features of learning theories, develop desirable positive attitude towards the outcome of learning theories. Introduction. Teaching and learning are important but complex activities, and therefore it is essential that educators understand the factors which motivate learners to observe thinking they observe, heard or read. The lack of attention to the factors underpinning the learning process certainly leads to improvement of education. Learning is an experiential process resulting in a relatively permanent change, not explained but temporary maturation or innate response tendencies. The change that occurs during learning is a potential for behavior that depends on the other conditions. Learning is not always a permanent change. What can be learned can be unlearned. Changes also occur for other reasons: maturation, motivation. Concept of learning. In the process of education, learning occupies the central place. Quote unquote, learning is the acquisition of habits, knowledge and attitudes. It involves new way of doing, thinking, and it operates in an individual to overcome obstacles or to adjust to new situations. It represents progressive changes in behavior. It enables him to satisfy interest to attain goals. Bandura's social learning theory. Socio-cognitive theory states that social and cognitive factors, as well as behavior, play an important role in learning. Cognitive factors might involve the students' expectations for success. Social factors might include students observing their parents' achievement behavior. Social cognitive theory is an increasingly important source for classroom applications. Observational learning. Observational learning is learning that involves acquiring skills, strategies, and beliefs by observing others. Observational learning involves imitation, but is not limited to it. What is learned? Typically, it is not an exact copy of what is modeled, but rather a general form or strategy that observers often apply in creative ways. The capacity to learn behavior patterns by observation eliminate tedious trial and error learning. In many instances, observational learning takes less time than operant conditioning. Bandura developed a reciprocal determined model that consists of three main factors: behavior factor, personal and cognitive, and environment. The three factors also main one. Process in observational learning. Bandura describe our key process in observational learning. One is attention, retention, production, and motivation. These all are important four key processes in observational learning. Next one, Cognitive theory. In 1956, The American educational psychologist Robert M. Cockney proposed a system of classifying different types of learning in terms of the degrees of complexity of the mental process involved. According to Cockney, the higher order of learning is a hierarchy built upon the lower level, requiring progressively greater amounts of previous learning for their success. The lowest four order tends to focus on the more behavioral aspects of learning, while the highest four focus on the more cognitive aspects. Cognate hierarchy of learning, cognate 9 event of instruction, cognate conditions of learning. Cognate theory instructions was developed by Robert M. Cockney. Is made upon three components. One is a taxonomy of learning outcomes, conditions of learning, 9 events of instructions. Cognitive domain, affective domain, psychomotor domain. A taxonomy of learning outcomes divided into 3 parts. Cognitive domain, cognitive strategies, intellectual skills, verbal informations also. Affective domain, attitude. Psychomotor domain, motor skills. Conditions for learning. 9 events of instructions are gaining attention, informing learners of objectives, stimulating recall for prior learning, presenting the stimuli, providing learning guidance, electing performance, providing feedback, assessing performance, enhancing retention and transfer also. Bruner's theory. Johannes Brunner has developed a cognitive model of learning. There are various ways of learning such as activity, exploration, discovery. Mode of representation. Brunner has classified the mode of presentation under the three headings, namely inactive mode, iconic mode, symbolic mode. Principles of learning. There are 4 themes suggested by Brunner as necessary to understand the process of learning. Readiness for learning, selection, sequencing and structuring, importance of reinforcement, goal achievement, kinds of thinking, intuitive, analytical and synthetic. Lev-Vygotsky developmental theory. The work of Lev-Vygotsky has become the fundamental of much research and theory in cognitive development. Over the past several decades, particularly what has become known as social developmental theory. The major theme of Vygotsky theoretical forms is that social interaction plays a fundamental role in development of cognition. Role of social interaction in cognitive development. More knowledgeable other. Zone of proximal development and scaffolding. Example picture for a zone of proximal development and the scaffolding. And next, Kolb learning style. David Kolb published his learning style model in 1984, from which he developed his learning style inventory. Kolb's experimental learning theory works on two levels: a four-stage cycle of learning and four separate learning styles. Much of Kolb's theory is concerned with the learner's internal cognitive process. Kolb states that learning involves the acquisition of abstract concepts that can be applied flexibly in a range of situations. In Kolb theory, the impulse for the development of new concepts is provided by new experiences. Learning is the process whereby knowledge is created through the transformation of experience. The experiential learning cycle. Kolb's experiential learning cycle theory is typically responded by a four stages learning cycle, in which the learner touches all the bases: concrete experiences, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization, active experimentation. The diagram also highlights Kolb's terminology for the four learning styles: diverging, assimilating, converging, and accommodation. Carl Rogers' self-theory. Phenomenal field, individual and environmental. The humanistic approach states that the self is composed of concepts unique to ourselves. The self-concept includes three concepts: self-worth, self-image, ideal self. Rogers' self-theory concept: positive regards, love, sympathy, warmth, acceptance, and respect, which are crave from family, friends, and people important to us. Conditional positive regard. Positive regards we receive if we behave in certain acceptable ways. Unconditional positive regards. Warmth, acceptance, and love that others show you regardless of your behavior. Levin's field theory of learning. Kurt Lewin, born in 1890, was a German psychologist in USA and worked as a professor at the Stanford University of IOWA. He is most renowned for the development of the field theory based on his doctoral dissertation. It was propounded by him in the year 1970. According to Levin's basic behavior formula, that is B equal to F into P dot E. The psychological field or life space F is nothing but the result of the interaction between a psychological program P and its psychological environment E. The system of describing human behavior and learning is based mainly on three key concepts and terms: life space, vector and balancing, and topology. Donald Norman theory. What is information processing? Information processing stands for an act of processing the information that is to analyze, employ or make use of information after gaining some knowledge or experiences. In the world of joy and will, information processing refers to the way people handle stimuli from the environment, organize data, think problem, generate concept and solution to problem, and employ verbal and non-verbal symbols. 3 stages information processing theory. This theory is the outcome of the idea propagated by Atkinson and Shipley. According to this theory, learning is the outcome of the processing of the information carried out by human brain at the following 3 stages: sensory registration, short-term memory, long-term memory. Educational implications. Discuss controversial illustrated issue with the student through their educational activities and make available the results that show the factual basis and lines the reasoning from several perspectives. Create many opportunities for students to analyze other points of view for their evidentiary adequacy and to develop and define their own points of view about controversial issues. Teach students strategy for systematically gathered data, assessing the relevance of the data, evaluating data source, and making interpretive judgment based on the available data. References for books. Check your progress. True or false? Student is the focal point of learning process. True or false? Answer is true. Student is the focal point of learning process. Is it true? Question number 2. Learning of skills are better influenced by environment. True or false? Learning of skills are better influenced by environment. Is it true? Thank you.